Hello and welcome back to the day-by-day tour of the Milano Cortina Winter Olympics. This is the second and final part of these videos where I go over everything that happened at these Olympics. So, without further ado, let's get straight on into it. Continuing on with last video's theme, curling started off the morning with the women's round robin as Team GB finally claimed a win over Canada, and Team Japan would get their only win of the round robin on this morning as well. Throughout the morning we had been moving through the rounds of the women's dual moguls, where Australian Jakara Anthony redeemed herself after crashing out of the normal moguls event, winning the gold, and Team USA took silver and bronze. This was then followed up by an eventful women's 7.5km cross-country skiing relay. Norway were running away with the lead when Swedish woman Ebba Andersson began chase, until her ski fell off and she went flying face first into the ground before getting back up and skiing considerable distance on just one ski. In the meantime, she lost a load of time and places as her coach then proceeded to bin it into the snow as well whilst bringing a replacement ski. Some say that this was the ghost of Mark Kennedy causing havoc in Tesoro. Somehow, the Swedish team managed to come back after that shit show to win silver, and Finland took the bronze. Men's ice hockey then took centre stage as Sweden pulled out a 5-3 victory over the Slovaks, and Germany looked poor in a 4-3 loss to Latvia. After this, Brazil won a historic first ever medal in the men's giant slalom, taking gold from the Swiss, who claimed silver and bronze in another exciting alpine skiing event. Curling took us over lunch before we were treated to some biathlon, where France, for a change, did not win gold. The gold went to Norway instead, with France getting the silver and bronze. Afterwards, the poor Italians men's ice hockey team got slaughtered 11-0 by the Finnish team, while Canada's women secured their place in the semi-finals, beating out Germany 5-1. Speed skating was then the only interesting thing to take place for a little while, where we had the men's 500 metres event. USA's Jordan Stoltz took gold as Jenning de Boo from the Netherlands claimed silver, and Laurent de Brail from Canada secured the bronze. This was followed a few hours later with the women's skeleton final runs, where the Germans took bronze and silver, and Austrian Janine Flock beat them to the gold. This was then swiftly followed by men's ski jumping on the large hill, where Slovenia continued to do really well in this event, taking gold, Japan taking the silver, and then Poland nabbed the bronze. The US men's ice hockey team got a decent win out over Denmark, possibly letting in a few too many goals than they would have liked to in a 6-3 win. Team Switzerland's women managed to hold on to a 1-goal lead in the ice hockey versus the Finns to send them through to the semi-finals, before we then moved over to speed skating for the final event of the day. The men's 1,500 metres speed skating was the last event on Valentine's Day, and it proved to be a good event for the Dutch as they took gold with Jens van Twelt, and Korea and Latvia finished out the medals there. The first medal event of the day came in the form of the men's 12.5km biathlon pursuit. France obviously made a feature on the podium, taking the bronze, while silver went to Norway and gold went to Sweden. Afterwards, we saw a crazy men's dual moguls event. Athletes were genuinely just throwing themselves down the slopes purely trying to beat the guy next to them, ignoring any technical score. Loads of people crashed, some random guy finished the race backwards by accident, and it was just all in all an absolutely crazy event. Australia managed to win another medal in this event, claiming the bronze, Japan won the silver, and it was Canadian Michael Kingsbury who survived the chaos to take gold. Klæbo then returned to race in the men's 4x7.5km relay next, and would you believe it, but he won his 4th gold of the games, breaking a record for the most gold medals won by a Winter Olympic athlete in history. The French and the Italians rounded out the podium for that event. We had a small intermission to the men's ice hockey where Switzerland beat Czechia in overtime before the women's giant slalom runs were completed, with Frederica Brigonia taking her 2nd gold of the games, and we had our 3rd double medal event of the games. Sara Hector from Sweden and Thea Louise St. Jørgensen from Norway somehow managed to get exactly the same time after 2 runs down the slalom course, both taking home the silver. Curling took us over lunch where Great Britain continued to be unpredictable, taking another loss, whilst the US squeezed out a win over China. Next up was the mixed team snowboard cross. If you don't understand how this event works, well, the men go first and then the women go second and set off however long after the person in first place that their man finished. Thankfully, Team GB qualified for the final and didn't actually get 4th for a change. Instead, Charlotte Banks redeemed herself after a disappointing individual event, making a crazy comeback to win this event for Team GB's 2nd gold of the games. Italy won silver, and France Team 2 won the bronze in the same event. Back over to the biathlon now, where France didn't get on the podium for a change. Instead, Italy took gold, Norway the silver, and Finland the bronze in the women's 10 kilometers pursuit. Canada's men then took over the day in the ice hockey, destroying the French team 10-2. In this game, we had our first fight of the Olympics, even though fighting isn't allowed. Tom Wilson went after Pierre Crinon, who put up a good fight against Wilson, who is known for his physicality in the NHL. Rather hilariously, for some reason the French Olympic Committee decided to ban Pierre from the next few games due to this fight in a move that did nothing but hurt the French team's chances of making it to the quarter-finals. Not that they were going to get there in the first place. This overshadowed the women's 500 metres speed skating, where Femke Kok took gold over her Dutch teammate Jutta Leerdam, and Japan's Miho Takagi took bronze. Next up came the mixed team skeleton. If you don't know how this one works, well, the woman does a run, and then the man does a run, and their times are added up to determine the winner. Germans looked set to take gold as Team GB found themselves sitting in 4th place, but you can't stop Matt Weston from generating time from absolutely nowhere, setting another track record to destroy everybody else and win another gold for Team GB, as Germany finished out the podium. The women's ski jumping took place next on the large hill. Norway stormed away with gold and silver, while Slovenia won the bronze. The day finished out with some more men's ice hockey, where the US blew out Germany 5-1. This morning obviously featured more curling, but at the same time we had a shit ton of speed skating heats, quarterfinals and semi-finals going on. The only medal event to happen in the morning was the women's 1000 metre speed skating though. It was a bit of a crazy race where a small incident caused Italy's Arianna Fontana to finish out of the medals, but Dutchwoman Zandra Velzeboer took another medal, winning a hard-fought gold. Courtney Saralaut won another silver, being slightly disappointed with this result since she was the world number 1 going into this event, and Korea's Gilly Kim won the bronze. Afterwards, we then saw the men's slalom alpine skiing, where the Swiss continued their dominance over the alpine skiing events, taking home yet another gold, while Austria took the silver and Norway the bronze. The US women's ice hockey team continued their gold medal run by beating Sweden in the semi-finals 5-0, and Canada's women would also do the same later in the day, beating out the Swiss to secure themselves a spot in the finals and a guaranteed medal. Curling accompanied us into the evening, where Team GB's women could not get any form of a winning streak going, as the USA somehow lost to a bad Italian team and Canada left it a bit too close versus the Japanese. This was followed by the last ski jumping event with the men's super team, where Austria took gold, Poland the silver and Norway the bronze. And don't think I forgot about the ski jumping controversy. Supposedly, some of the male athletes had been injecting some kind of acid into their land down under to make them larger. This would mean that they could get a bigger suit, providing more uplift, and therefore making them go further. This is a very weird way to cheat, but it is very creative, I'll give them that. Nothing has been proven as of the recording of this video in a scandal which I personally don't buy, but it would be quite funny if it was true. Moving on to a sport which had a shit ton of controversies at Beijing 2022, the figure skating came back on our screens as the pairs event was wrapped up. Japan continued to do very well in the figure skating, taking home the gold, whilst Georgia won their first and only medal of the games with the silver, and Germany took home the bronze. Next up came the women's skiing big air, which was another very fun event. Eileen Gu claimed another silver as she was pipped to the gold by Canadian Megan Oldham, while Italian Flora Tabanelli took bronze, and missing out on the medals barely was Team GB's Kirsty Muir, taking home her second 4th place of the games, which I can only imagine how bad she feels. The night was rounded out with bobsleigh, where 41-year-old Alana Meyers-Taylor stormed down to take gold away from German Laura Nolter, as Kaylee Armbuster Humphreys took bronze for the US as well. During the men's slalom, we were treated to a bit more drama, as Norway's Alta-Lee McGrath was leading by 0.59 seconds going into the final runs, which is a huge margin in slalom skiing. However, he straddled one of the gates and stormed off into the woods looking like that one penguin from all those TikTok edits. I do really feel bad for the guy. I would be utterly distraught if I did that, but thankfully I didn't, so I guess I don't have to worry about that. And welcome to day 11. This morning was another one where basically nothing happened. We obviously had a feature from the men's curlers where Switzerland were continuing their unbeaten record in the round robin, and we then saw some men's ice hockey, but this was mostly irrelevant as Germany played France and Switzerland played Italy, where only Team Switzerland and Germany would actually make it through to the quarterfinals but would be immediately knocked out in epic fashion. The large hill and 10 km cross-country skiing Nordic combined event came next. Norwegian Jens Lars Oftebro won gold, while his rival Johannes Lamparter finished in second by just 5 seconds, losing yet another race to Oftebro. Finland won the bronze with Ilkka Herola in the same event. There has also been significant controversy surrounding all Nordic combined events, because presently only men can compete at the Olympics in the event, with no women's events actually being held. This sexism is obvious, and it doesn't make any sense as to why the women aren't allowed to compete. Loads of stuff was going on about this online as well, but nothing's changed as of the recording of this video with the addition of the women's event. It's just downright stupid and idiotic in my opinion. We then had the women's curling occur over lunch, where we were treated to a clash of the titans as 1-win Japan went up against 1-win Italy. In a close game, Italy secured the win to propel themselves up the standing by an entire 1 position, helping them in no way reach the semi-finals. Biathlon came up next with the men's 4x7.5 km relay. Would you believe it, but France won yet another gold in this discipline, where Norway claimed the silver and the bronze went to Team Sweden. Up next was a load of team pursuit speed skating heats and stuff, but for ease, here are just the winners of the overall medals. In the men's event, Italy took gold, USA the silver, and China the bronze. And in the women's event, Canada took the gold, the Netherlands won silver, and Japan the bronze. Czechia then barely beat out Denmark in the men's ice hockey, winning just 3-2, before we had a bit more curling, and then some men's big air action. Norway took the gold, USA the silver, and Austria the bronze in another fun freestyle skiing event. Next up came the men's bobsleigh. In the 2-man event, Germany proved why they are the dominant nation when it comes down to sliding events, winning not just gold, and not just gold and silver, but winning gold, silver and bronze. To finish off the day, Sweden's men made it into the quarterfinals of the ice hockey as they destroyed Latvia 5-1, with the Swedish team really starting to heat up at the right time. We also had the start of the women's individual figure skating earlier in the day, where Team USA were trying to win their first gold medal in this event for over 20 years. With the trio of Alyssa Liu, Amber Glenn and Isabella Vito, could one of them get the job done? After this first round, Amy Nakai from Japan sat in first, ahead of veteran teammate Kaori Sakamoto and America's Alyssa Liu. Day 12 was probably one of the best days of the Olympics. Women's curling began the morning as Team GB looked to lose out versus the USA, but arguably the shot of the entire Olympics was played by Team GB's Rebecca Morrison to win the game and keep the semi-final hopes alive for the British women. The men's snowboard slopestyle was the next event up and was won by China, with Japan continuing their successful games winning silver and USA took the bronze. This then leads us on to the women's cross-country skiing team sprint free final, where Sweden unsurprisingly won gold, but more surprisingly, Switzerland took silver and Germany the bronze. The men's event came next, where the podium looked a bit more normal as Norway stormed to gold, the silver was won by the USA and Italy took the bronze. Ice hockey took place next, where the Slovaks easily put aside the Germans to move them onto the semi-finals, before we saw some women's aerials finals, where China won gold and bronze, with Australian Daniel Scott claiming the silver. More curling then took us over lunch as Switzerland's men continued their unbeaten run and Great Britain's men blew out the USA before the women blessed us with some great snowboard slopestyle action. Japan took gold with Mary Fukuda and Zoe Sadowski-Synnott of New Zealand took silver, while Coco Marase took bronze for Japan. Biathlon came up next with the women's 4x6 km relay. France secured yet another gold in this event, while Sweden and Norway finished out the podium, looking very similar to the men's relay the day prior. Some thrilling men's ice hockey then came next to our screens. Finland managed to squeak out a 3-2 overtime win versus Switzerland, but my eyes were on the Canada versus Czechia game. For the first time in the entire tournament, Canada looked different as Czechia brought out a very physical style of play, storming to a 2-1 lead in the first period. Canada pulled it back to 2-2, but a deliberately dirty hit on Sidney Crosby injured him, putting Canada's captain out for the rest of the Olympics. Then, suddenly, with 7 minutes left, Czechia scored with Andrej Palat to give them a 3-2 lead. Could Canada keep their heads to score their third? Of course they could. Nick Suzuki replaced Sidney Crosby and had a great individual effort before tipping the puck into the net between the legs of the Czechia goaltender. This game is going to overtime.
Czechia had a few good looks which Binnington was able to fend off, but it was Mitch Marner who came through and scored an absolute worldie of a goal, sending Canada through to the next round.
Curling helped to cool things off for everybody, with the British women starting to get into the groove of things. This was then followed by the women's 3,000 metre speed skating relay, in which Korea took gold and Canada the bronze, with Italy taking silver as Arianna Fontana became the most decorated Italian Olympian ever, winning her 14th Olympic medal in her 20-year-long career. This was then followed by another crazy men's ice hockey game, where the Americans had a lead with 1 minute left, but a one-timer from Zibanejad sent this one to overtime. Ultimately, this wouldn't matter as Quinn Hughes rocketed one off the right post and into the net, advancing the US to the semi-finals. The day finished out with the men's 500 metres speed skating as Canada's Stephen Dubois stole gold away from the Vantuort brothers. To recap the men's ice hockey standings for everybody, Canada would move on to play Finland and the USA would go on to play Slovakia in the semi-finals. And I almost forgot the women's slalom skiing somehow. Team USA's Michaela Schifrin had suffered a severe crash in late 2024, so there were doubts as to whether she could win gold, but she taught us all a very important lesson. Never doubt Schifrin. Michaela won gold for the USA in a very impressive win considering all that's happened to her over the last 2 years, while Switzerland's Camille Rast won silver and Sweden's Anna Sven Larsson took the bronze. And a part of what made this day so good was a few controversies, of course. The first one, well, a wolf dog decided to run into the cross-country skiing relay for the women's qualifiers and finish the race. Thankfully it didn't impede anybody, but the owners didn't realise that it had escaped from the house until they looked at the TV. The second controversy was a bit more meaningful though, and this happened during the men's Canada versus Czechia ice hockey game. It turns out, on the last goal for Czechia, they had 6 men on the ice, and you can quite clearly see that here. This means that the goal should have been disallowed, but nobody appears to have seen it until after the game, nearly losing Canada a place in the semi-finals and a shot at the medals. This day had another really quite boring morning, so I won't bore you with the details. But the first medal event of the day was the debut of ski mountaineering on the women's sprint final. Switzerland won this event as France came second and Spain took home the bronze. This was very quickly followed by the team sprint cross-country skiing for the Nordic combined. With a win that shocked absolutely nobody, Norway took home gold, Finland the silver and Austria the bronze. Just 15 minutes after, the men's sprint final for ski mountaineering took place, where Spain took gold with Oriol Cardona-Coll, neutral athlete Nikita Filipov took silver, and Thibaut Anselmet of France took the bronze. Next up came a series of women's curling which would decide the semi-finals. Team GB needed to win their game and have Team USA lose if they were to make it to the semi-finals, and Team USA just needed to win their game to head through. Team GB easily swept aside an Italian team and watched on with a nervous face as the US threw their final stone. The USA had done it, managing to beat a really good Switzerland team on the final stone of the game, ending Team GB's women's chance at a medal. Featuring next was the women's bronze medal game for the ice hockey. This one went on to overtime as Sweden and Switzerland were tied 1-1 after 3 periods. Ultimately, it was the Swiss who struck first and scored, giving them the bronze over the Swedish. Up next was the men's 1,500 metre speed skating, where Zhongyan Ning of China stole gold away from the American Jordan Stolz, whilst Dutchman Clyde Noyes took bronze as the Dutch medalled in yet another speed skating event. We then saw the final of the women's figure skating with the free skate. World champion Alyssa Liu of America stepped out onto the ice to deliver a performance full of joy and passion, shooting her from 3rd into 1st, where she would stay, fending off Japanese legend Kaori Sakamoto and 16-year-old Amy Nakai. The USA had managed to get the gold in an event they hadn't been top of for 20 years, as Amber Glenn managed to rectify a poor short programme result to come 5th, whilst Isabella Vito finished the competition down in 12th. This was a fun competition and one I was forced to watch by my sister instead of actually watching the women's ice hockey gold medal game. Could Canada rectify the 5-0 loss they suffered to the US earlier in the tournament? Well, things were looking good for the Canadians as they managed to score a goal early and hold on to the lead for a really long time. But with the US ladies pushing, it's only a matter of time before one goal finds its way through. This game was headed to overtime. The US caught the Canadians in a line change and Megan Keller made a lovely move around one of the defenders to push the puck into the net, winning the gold for the USA as Canada would take home a bittersweet silver. The men's curling semi-finals then took centre stage. Canada managed to squeeze out a close win over Norway, who they'd lost to just that morning, while Great Britain were playing the unbeaten Swiss. And as we all know by now in curling, do not get an unbeaten record in the round robin. For the second time, an unbeaten team would be beaten as Switzerland lost and Great Britain had a shot at gold once again. The morning of day 14 was clogged up by ski halfpipe qualifications, aerials qualifications and ski cross qualifications, but the first medal event of the day was the women's ski cross finals. In this event, Germany's Daniela Mayer took gold, Switzerland's Fanny Smith took silver, and Sweden's Sandra Nyslund took bronze. This was shortly followed by the men's aerials finals, where China won gold and bronze, but surprisingly Switzerland won silver, with no Roth being stuck in a China sandwich. Over lunch, the women's curlers came out for the semi-finals. Canada was playing Sweden, while the USA were playing Team Switzerland. Sweden won their game against the Canadians, and Switzerland managed to beat the US, who had beaten them the day before, meaning that we had an all-European final. The curling slightly overshadowed the men's 15km biathlon mass start, where Norway got a 1-2 as France squeezed themselves onto the podium, taking the bronze in yet another biathlon event. Next up was the women's 1,500 metre speed skating, where the Dutch continued to crush everybody else, winning yet another gold, as Norway took silver and Canada took the bronze. This event was another one which was slightly overshadowed by something else, that being the Canada vs Finland men's ice hockey. Finland shot out to a 2-0 lead before Canada responded with a goal of their own from Cale Makar in the second period, and then Theodore scored with 9 minutes left in the third, leaving this at a tie game. Then, an absolutely heavenly pass for across the ice from McDavid to McKinnon led to a one-timer, where McKinnon absolutely buried it past Finnish goaltender Jussi Saros with 35 seconds left on the clock. Finland challenged the play for offsides, but it was overruled and the goal stood. Then, Finland got an offensive zone face-off with 1.3 seconds left, but Canada had the perfect response. Throw everybody in the way as a brick wall. This led to a Canada win in another spectacular game. The men's curling bronze medal game then got underway, but Switzerland just ran away with it very easily, destroying the Norwegians 9-1. This was followed by the men's free ski halfpipe, where American Alex Ferreira took gold over Estonian Henry Sildrow and Canadian Brendan McKay. Before the next session of ice hockey, I feel like we just have to talk about the world's funniest short track speed skating semi-final. This race started off with this many people, before 2 of them crashed out. Nothing too unusual yet. But then, on the very next corner, another athlete slipped out and was out of the race, so then there were just 4 of them left. Then out of those 4, Canadian Courtney Saroux slipped at the exact same place and flew out, leaving just 3 of them. These 3 just really needed to get around the track to be in the finals, but then Dutchwoman Sandra Velzeboer had other ideas, slipping at the exact same part of the track the other 2 had slipped at, leaving just 2 people left to finish the race, as everybody else was just extremely confused and had no idea what had actually happened, as there were racers who crashed out still just skating around trying to claim the rest of the positions. It was so confusing. After this, a little bit less eventful short track speed skating race took place, with the men's 5,000 metre relay getting underway, where the Dutch took yet another unsurprising gold, as Korea took silver and the Italians continued their best ever winter games, winning the bronze. We then got back underway with the women's short track 1,500 metres, where Korea took a 1-2 and the USA took bronze. But this podium is very scuffed, with some big names like Sandra Velzeboer and Courtney Saroux weren't being in that race after flying out the stadium in their semi-final. The men's ice hockey then finished off the day as the USA crushed Slovakia 6-2, leaving the final for the men's ice hockey being the USA versus Canada. And welcome to the penultimate day of the Olympics. First up today was the mixed team aerials finals, and despite having won the gold in both the men's and women's events, China only took bronze, as the USA took gold and Switzerland the silver. We then had the return of Klæbo. This guy had already won 5 golds across the game so far and was now looking for his 6th, but in order to do so, he had to claim it in possibly the hardest event in cross-country skiing there is, the 50 kilometers. Klæbo sat around at the front for most of the race, never actually taking the lead until about the last kilometre, where he turned on the jets and just destroyed everybody else. He had done the impossible, becoming the most successful Winter Olympian ever along the way. This guy's more like the Terminator than an actual human. Norway managed to complete the 1-2-3 in this event, completing an extremely successful cross-country skiing campaign. Next up came the men's ski cross final. Italy continued to be absolutely phenomenal and took a 1-2 in this event with the gold and silver, as Switzerland claimed the bronze before we then found ourselves watching the ski mountaineering mixed relay.
Spain continued to be sneaky underdogs in this event, winning their third medal in it with a bronze, as Switzerland took silver and France won the gold. 30 minutes later, we watched the women's curling bronze medal game, where Canada played the USA. Canada managed to put up 10 in a very high-scoring game, beating out the US women who only managed to put up 7 points. We then saw our last feature from the biathlon with the women's 12.5 kilometers mass start. The French once again proved themselves to be the masters of this sport, claiming both the gold and silver, as Czechia took the bronze. We then saw our last feature from the men's and women's speed skating today with their mass start final. In the men's event, Dutchman Jorrit Bergsma took gold, Victor Houd Thorup of Denmark took the silver, and Andrea Giovanni took the bronze for Italy. The women's event was much of the same, as the Dutch continued to show their pure dominance, taking gold with a Dutch woman whose name I am too scared to pronounce, while Canada took silver ahead of the USA. We then had the return of the curlers. Canada played Team GB for the gold medal, and the game was a very closely fought one, but Canada started to run away with the game in the last few ends as they took home gold. Whether you think action should have been taken against the Canadian team for the blatant cheating or not is up to you. No action was taken, but it does raise questions on how the issue should be dealt with in future. Either way, congrats to Team Canada and Team GB on the medals there. The men's ice hockey bronze medal match was up next, but this one didn't really have much competition at all. Finland just destroyed the Slovaks 6-1. The game probably should have been between Finland and Czechia, but because of the silly bracket system thing, apparently Slovakia is now better than Czechia or something. The final event of the day was the women's 2-woman bobsleigh. This was another event where one country made a statement win by saying, "We are the ultimate sliding nation," as Germany took a 1-2 with the USA securing the bronze.
And we have made it to the final day of this Olympics, and it was one with very few events, so I can go into a bit more detail on some of them. First up came the women's cross-country skiing 50 kilometers mass start classic. Sweden's women have always been good at cross-country skiing, but this year they appeared to be on another level, winning yet another gold with Ebba Andersson. Meanwhile, Norway took silver with Heidi Weng, and Switzerland actually won a cross-country skiing medal for what feels like the first time this games, with Nadia Karlin. Next came the women's free ski halfpipe, which had been moved to this day due to bad weather on day 15. Earlier in the games, a reporter had the audacity to ask China's Eileen Gu if she saw 2 silver medals that she'd already won as 2 golds lost, and this appeared to light a bit of a fire as Gu was unmatched down the halfpipe, taking gold for China. In the meantime, a bit of a scrap for silver was going on between Great Britain's Zoe Atkins and China's Fang Hui Li. Li ended up taking silver, but this was somewhat controversial. Only Atkin and Gu were able to get any good height in the halfpipe, with everybody else being nearly 2 meters lower on many of the jumps. But this wasn't really rewarded with any points, as many people feel it should be. This meant that Atkin won bronze instead of silver, with many feeling how height was really underappreciated by the judges, and that she received far lower marks than what she should have. But either way, China's Eileen Gu appeared to finally be back to her winning ways. We then had the conclusion of the curling with the women's gold medal game. Sweden played Switzerland, and this was a hard-fought game throughout. Each team was trading blows, but in the last end, the Swedish captain delivered a throw to secure them the gold, with the final score ending 6-5. The final heat of the men's 4-man bobsleigh was an unsurprising contest. Germany stored away with the gold and silver, continuing to cement themselves as the sliding nation, while Switzerland took bronze, continuing another good day for Team Switzerland. Our final event of the games was the long-anticipated men's ice hockey gold medal game. The USA took an early lead after some poor defensive play by Team Canada's top defensive pair, until Cale Makar rectified this early mistake by perfectly slotting one past American goaltender Connor Hellebuck. Canada then utterly dominated in every way possible, getting pucks on net at a crazy rate, but there was only one thing stopping them. Hellebuck was playing like prime Fleury, and nothing could get past. Canadian defenseman Taves had a wide open net, but Hellebuck's outstretched stick caught a piece of it, sending the puck wide. Then Nathan MacKinnon had a shot he scores 999 times out of 1,000, but he missed, and that will be a shot that keeps him up at night for years. Over 40 shots later, Hellebuck had held firm, carrying this game to overtime. Overtime was honestly a bit of a shit show, as these guys had already had to play a full tournament to get here. Canada was only running 2 lines, meaning that when an offensive turnover happened, the Americans had a 3-on-1 versus a tired MacKinnon, and they iced the game. Quinn Hughes sent a pass across ice to Jack Hughes, who went for the 5-hole, and Canada's goaltender Jordan Binnington will want that one back as he opened his legs for some absolutely unknown reason. Team USA had won their first gold medal in ice hockey since the Miracle on Ice nearly 50 years ago. But did the right team win? Well, me personally, I'm going to say no. And did the best team win? No. Never before has a team been dominated so hard and still won a game. Team Canada were the best team throughout the tournament, proving they can blow you out by 5 goals and also come back, having some electric games along the way. And whilst the USA didn't lose a game, they just simply weren't as good or weren't as dominant as the Canadians. But in the one game where it mattered most, the USA did take the win. This is why I reckon they should use a sort of mini-series system like they use in the NHL playoffs, but they don't, and this is the result we are stuck with, even if I do think it is the wrong one. Sorry to all you American viewers out there, I can hear you all about to type away in the comments, but this was just the general consensus after the game. Congrats on the gold. And that's it. What a journey we've been on from day -2. We've had some crazy results and also some absolutely crazy scandals, and it all really deserves its own award ceremony, to be honest. If I had to sum up the Milano Cortina 2026 Olympics in one word, well, I couldn't. What a games we've had. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.